and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There was no previous executive session, so we can move on to the recognition showcase.
Good evening, everybody. I am Allison Moyer, the Communications Specialist for Boyertown Area School District. And tonight I have the honor of introducing you to Mr. Brunner and Bash Choirs. Before they sing for us this evening, two celebrations. On October 17th, 25 Bash 10th through 12th grade singers traveled to Governor Mifflin High School to audition for music educators of Berks County's Senior County Chorus. I am proud to say that 22 of those students have successfully made the 2024 Senior County Chorus, and 2 of our students have been selected as alternates. That chorus concert will take place on January 20th at Conrad Weiser High School, and we'll keep everybody informed via newsletters. And then last night, a bus full of Bash Choir students traveled to Parkland High School and auditioned for the PMEA, Pennsylvania Music Educators Association District 10 Chorus. And they competed against over 750 singers from 51 schools for 200 seats in the honor choir. And we had 9 kids placed there as well. They will travel to Jim Thorpe on January 25th and 26th for some special work under Dr. Johnny Felder. And so congratulations to all of you. I brought you here because you make everybody smile, and you're great at what you do. So I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mrs. Moyer. Hi, I'm Jeff Brunner. I'm the director of the choirs at Boyertown High School. I'm proud to be here, proud alumni. And brought the show choir in tonight, even though some of them just came from their district winning soccer game and last night. And we were out late last night at district chorus auditions, but they still have some energy left, so let's see if we can do something tonight for you. If you would like to, we have our holiday winter concert coming up with the orchestra on December 14th. We always invite you to come join us there at the high school. And of course, I'm not sure if you've heard yet, but we're doing Hunchback of Notre Dame this year. We'd love to have you come join us at that as well this year. So here we go. We're going to perform one piece for you tonight. Next Friday, the students were invited to an adjudication at Temple University to work with the 5 professors down there of choral activities. And we're going to sing 2 pieces, and I thought one of them is ready now, so we'll share that one with you. It's Moses Hogan's Walk Together, Children.
There's a great camp meeting.
There's a great camp meeting. A great camp meeting in the promised land.
Oh, walk on, children, don't you get weary. Walk on, children, don't you get weary. Just a walk on, children, don't you get weary. There's a great camp meeting in the promised land. Oh, walk on, children, don't you get weary. Walk on, children, don't you get weary. Just a walk on, children, don't you get weary. There's a great camp meeting in the promised land.
Gonna walk
and never tire. Walk and never tire. Walk and never tire. Walk and never tire. Walk and never tire. Walk and never tire. There's a great camp meeting in the promised land. Oh, walk on, children, don't you get weary. Walk on, children, don't you get weary. Just a walk on, children, don't you get weary. There's a great camp meeting in the promised land.
Gonna sing
and never tire. Sing and never tire. you get weary. Walk on, children, don't you get weary. Just a walk on, children, don't you get weary. There's a great camp meeting in the promised land. Gonna shout, shout, shout and never tire. 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 There's a great camp meeting in the promised land. Oh, walk on, children, don't you get weary. Sing on, our children, don't you get weary. Just a shout on, children, don't you get weary. There's a great, yes, a great, yes, a great camp meeting in the promised land.
I don't know about the rest of you, but I'd be okay with that at every meeting. I'm just saying. So, guys, congratulations on kicking off this year so beautifully. Best wishes for your entire season this year. Thanks for making time to come
Thank
over.
you.
All right.
We're gonna go back and learn some choreography now. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
At this time, we will have our student representative report, and we'll have Lexi and Liliana.
Good evening, everyone. We are looking forward to bringing you some of this month's highlights, including past events like homecoming and the cavalcade, as well as some upcoming events like the final football game of the season and the quickly approaching end of quarter.
Okay, so the Bash Student Council has put on yet another successful homecoming this year with over 900 tickets sold. We want to especially commend them on their organization of the event. Bag checks in particular were very well organized and were fast and efficient and kept everyone safe. So great job to all the students and the staff and the Student Council for putting on a great night for everyone.
On September 30th, Bash hosted the 63rd annual Arlen Sailor Cavalcade. We hosted 16 high school bands, the East Stroudsburg University Band, and our own middle and high school marching units. One of the countless examples of creativity during the show included Vampire in Love by the Penridge High School, which included a castle that took 8 weeks to build. We are beyond proud of our Bash bands and are looking forward to next year's cavalcade.
So as fall sports are ending, teams are taking time to appreciate and celebrate their senior members by giving them their own senior night. So far, every sports team has had their nights, except for the Bash football team, who's to have theirs on October 27th at the last football game of the season. Congratulations to all our senior sports members.
On October 11th, all seniors gave their senior presentations. We are happy to announce that 95% of all seniors passed, completing their final career portfolio assignment before graduation.
And then the annual Powder Puff game is to be held on November 1st. We cannot wait to witness the friendly junior-senior rivalry, ending in one grade winning the game. Come on out to support our players and our cheerleaders.
In their first esports league match, Boyertown High School Division I Rocket League won against Greater Johnstown High School with 3 games to 0. We can't wait to see this program grow and continue to establish a community for an ever-growing hobby amongst high school students.
And we want to thank the board members and meeting attendees for listening to our report tonight, and we hope to have even more information next month, including information on the middle school student luncheon. Have a great night.
Thank you, ladies, and I'd like to thank Mrs. Hogan for being our student rep liaison.
It's a pleasure. The ladies are amazing. Thank you.
This is public comment period number 1. Joe Picone.
Sorry, give me a minute. Despite my youthful look, I have a hard time seeing small print. Joe Piccioni, Douglas Township. I just wanted to take a moment to speak on the comprehensive plan that's coming up, and that some board members have previously indicated that they might be opposed to the plan based on including things that are required by the PDE, including social emotional learning and culturally relevant and sustaining education standards for teachers. As a teacher myself, I see none of the issues or concerns about these guidelines that have been expressed. Excuse me. Most of these have been best practices that teachers have engaged in for decades. One of the board members who has previously expressed opposition to SEL, however, praised coping skills at a meeting previously. But what else could coping skills be but SEL? They're certainly not math or science or social studies or reading or writing, but they certainly do help in succeeding or overcoming struggles in any of those subjects and many more. The CRSE standards are similar in that they also are old news and totally normal for most teachers. They include things like having respect for diverse opinions, bringing real-world experiences into the classroom, providing equitable and differentiated learning opportunities, collaborating with families and communities. These are not forcing or evaluating teachers on their ability to indoctrinate students. As an educator, I believe that if executed, funded, and properly supported by our board and administration, this plan will improve the quality of education in Boyertown, and I hope that it's discussed and passed with that in mind, and not just as a way to inject politics further into the boardroom. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we are privileged to have a special guest in our audience tonight. We have Representative Mark M. Gillen, who began serving the people in the 128th Legislative District in 2011, if I have that correct. And that district now includes portions of Berks County. The 28th district consists of parts of Berks County consisting of the townships of Amity, Carnarvon, and Douglas Exeter, if I have that correctly as well. So we would love to have Representative Gillen have some words for our members.
Well, thank you very much. I see that the timer is not up there for me, but I have been offered many words of caution about going anywhere close to the Phillies playoff game, the 7th game. My wife has mostly cautioned me about that. Just let me say a word of thanks to the entire team that's assembled here. I was a graduate of public high school, and 2 of the 3 college degrees that I received were from public institutions, including Kutztown University. So I'm deeply indebted. By the same token, we homeschool our own children. So I believe in school choice. However, let me just add this caveat. That doesn't determine who pays for the choice, all right? And I think that's part of the struggle that we go through with cyber charter and charter schools. I had a great conversation with, is it Patricia Denicola? Right. Okay. About that. And since I have been in office, and I was sworn in 2011, we have increased basic education funding monies by over 50%. In the last 3 years alone, over 25%. And so I do think I have a responsibility for a robust fiscal approach to public education. It costs, and a lot of the mandates that unfortunately come down from the state regarding our pension costs. I know we're going to have probably an Act 1 discussion here. And so I'm raising a family in this area. We live in the Birdsboro area. We live on a farm. I have 5 daughters. The most discussed subject in our house is chocolate on most days of the week, and so Halloween is a pretty special time in our house. Actually, one daughter is married, college graduate. Second is an ROTC in her junior year in college, and a recent high school graduate. We have a 15-year-old and a 10-year-old whose job is to mess up everyone's homeschool educational experience, and so she's adept at that. We've been involved in 4-H for a number of years. We think there's a lot of character building opportunities and work ethic. And notably, I spent time in this community working with the Colebrook Dale Railroad. I was on the train with Nathaniel Geist, Esquire, who's trying to make improvements not only just on a rail line and a recreational venue, but the spillover effect in the entire community, including the school district, I think is important. I'm involved with the SPOTS. If you think I mispronounced it, you'll have to study the history. Some people call it Spats Museum, but it's SPOTS. And the general was born in this area. And I started the Berks Military History Museum, We had a number of educational opportunities for young people in the public schools to come and visit. There is no charge, there are no fees. We only operate on a volunteer basis. And that is in Moton, and we're putting right next to it a Holocaust museum. And we have raised over $2 million for that, so that's going to become a reality next year, and we would invite your participation in educational programs that we'll be having there. In terms of my committee assignments, they have been narrowed. I am now the chairman of the Veterans Affairs and Emergency Preparedness Committee in the State House of Representatives. I'm the minority chair. For a number of years, I had 4 different committees, but the focus has changed now as a consequence of my seniority, which I don't consider myself really senior since I've been in since 2011. I would encourage you, I'm not going to, again, I'm looking over there, because we have people on the clock, all right? With this appropriations bill, we have people on the clock. I would encourage you to have any conversations you're interested with me at a personal level relative to budgetary matters or really anything under the purview of you educationally. I was an Act 48 certified teacher for many years myself. I didn't have the privilege of being full-time in the classroom. My career track took me in a different direction, but I spent a great deal of time in the classroom as a guest teacher when I was growing up, what we called substitute teachers. In terms of background and pedigree, for 30 years, I was an emergency medical technician, a correctional officer in Pennsylvania, which I understand helps a lot in education today, a little tongue-in-cheek. In addition to being a correctional officer, I was a university police officer. And so my background is in public service. The areas that I've worked in public safety are really close to my heart. Again, I would encourage you, I don't think there's a time for Q&A here. I would encourage you afterwards. I will stay till 8 o'clock. And then I'll be getting a speeding ticket to get home by 8:07 for the opening pitch. Truthfully, I'll stay as long as anybody needs to have a conversation with me. I'm here at your disposal. I'm pleased through the beauty of redistricting now to be representing this area. I do not get a vote on this. Redistricting is done to us, not for us. All right? But I'm very pleased to be over this way because I spend time in this area. All right? So I look forward to visiting with you after the meeting. Thank you very much.
So we would like to thank you for your supporting, and we do have a gift for you. I did learn looking through your vita that you are a Golden Bear graduate, Kutztown University. Yes, so fellow Golden Bear graduate, so here's a bear gift for you. All right, well thank you very much, I really appreciate that. I was told there would be food here, and there was more food here than I thought there would be. Thank you. So at this time, we will move to our comprehensive plan update. I would like to invite Mrs. Stephanie Landis, our Director of Teaching and Learning, to the podium, and her and I are going to co-facilitate just an update on the comprehensive plan. We had gone through an extensive overview a month ago. The plan has sat for the 28 days, and we are at the point of moving towards approval. So I'm going to ask Mrs. Landis to kick it off.
Before we start, I'd like to put a motion to amend.
Well, not at this point.
Not at this point? Okay.
Not at this point. You would address it when we get to the agenda items.
Okay, that's where I thought we were. Okay.
Okay.
That's fine. Okay, thank you. Sorry.
All right, so we just wanted to take just a few moments to review where we're at in terms of the work with the comprehensive plan. So we have a few items here on the agenda, some of which are review, and then a few updates for you. As we had discussed previously, the comprehensive plan is due at the end of this month. Every 3 years, school districts must submit to the Secretary of the State of Pennsylvania for approval a professional education plan. Along with that is an induction plan and our overall comprehensive plan, which has 6 different sections to it that you can see listed there. This is a continuous process. While they did move the timeline a little bit for us this year, the current year's plan would be retroactive to July 1st of 2023 and continue through June of 2026. And you can see that timeline there. The bulk of the work we had done last school year, and we had brought the comprehensive plan to the board at the September 12th meeting, I believe it was, and then we had it for public review and comment for that 20-day public review period. And so now we bring it to you this evening for the vote. It is still aligned with our vision, mission, and goals, and we have kept those consistent in this round of the comprehensive plan. We also did work to align it with our BASD Portrait of a Graduate, which we've had in place here in the district for the past few years. And once again, on the 12th, we had done a presentation on the plan. We do have the link to that presentation embedded in this plan for you in case you need to refer back to any of that information in the future. Mr. Stout's going to jump in and share where we have gone with the professional learning plan based on the input that has been received. This first part did not change, but is a continuation of the goals that we had shared with you in September.
Right, so just a quick overview of those significant goals that we had as part of the professional learning plan is their horizontal and vertical curriculum alignment that we had discussed with you before, the growth of our language arts, English language arts growth and you have to remember when you look at the components of this plan, it is not an annual plan, it is over the course of 3 years. So our goal was to grow our students in that 3-year time span. Special education growth, our committee determined that we have to support our students with special needs and increase their progress towards grade level proficiency benchmarks. And finally, one of the new components of the comprehensive plan this year that was put into place for a state mandate was our structured literacy professional learning. And the goal is again, reminder that by the end of year 3, we would have 100% of our district staff trained in structured literacy practices. Moving forward with the professional learning plan, as PD asks us to prioritize, we are asked to meet the needs of diverse learners in inclusive settings. We're asked to improve language and literacy acquisition for all students. And finally, closing the achievement gaps for among all of our students. So as we made reference to in the previous slide, the structured literacy competencies program framework guidelines we had shared with the board in the past. There's a hyperlink to the information for that. And a new component that we had introduced to the board back in November of 2022 were the culturally relevant and sustaining education program framework guidelines, or CRSE. And we will talk about that shortly, about how we are looking to embed those competencies standards into our comprehensive plan. Just to be clear for the board, this is one page, and I don't remember the exact page within the in the plan, Mrs. Landis, but this is the plan where you actually state that you are going to cover these professional learning requirements, and I'll just go over them. Language and literacy acquisition for all students, teaching diverse learners in inclusive settings, at least 1 hour of trauma-informed training care for all staff, professional ethic program framework guidelines, the culturally relevant and sustaining education program framework guidelines, and finally the structured literacy program framework guidelines. And as presented, we have checked yes to all, I want to say 6 of these boxes. Just more continuation on the professional development steps that are articulated within the comprehensive plan. We have done numerous presentations in the past of the STEEL standards. We are sending people constantly for our new science and technology, engineering, environmental literacy, and sustainability standards. We're also looking to implement these PA STEELs aligned curriculum in our K through 12 classrooms. We are also looking as moving forward to educate professional staff in embedding impact skills aligned with the collaborative for academic, social, and emotional learning, better known as CASEL competencies, such as critical thinking, collaboration, problem solving, creativity, effective communication to prepare our students for college, the workforce, and adult life. Also, we're looking to establish professional learning progressions that foster horizontal and vertical curriculum alignment and clear learning targets. We talked about that, how grade levels go across. If I'm a second grade teacher at Colebrookdale, I should be doing similar kinds of instructional practices as a student over in New Hanover Elementary School. And then conversely to that, as I look at second grade should know what's happening in third grade should know what's happening in fourth grade, and so on. And finally, introducing high-yield strategies for identified professional staff that support students' ability to decode, understand, and analyze text. Giving a quick update on the CRSE requirements. I will read this for you about what PA Code has asked and required of us is that the Pennsylvania Department of Education, PDE, to identify competencies and develop associated standards for educator training in culturally relevant and sustaining education, or CRSE. Chapter 49 requires instruction in the CRSE practice to be integrated in education preparation, induction, and continuing professional development programs as follows. So these are the two areas of ways that we would embed these competencies. The first one being continuing professional development programs that must integrate the CRSE competencies no later than the 23-24 academic school year. And secondly, the educator preparation and induction programs must integrate CRSE competencies no later than the 24-25 academic year. We took some careful time because the CRSE competencies are numerous, but embedded within those competencies are standards. I believe there's 40 plus standards that are a part of those competencies. So we decided to pick 7 of the competencies. I will remind the board that in the guidelines, there is no specific maximum amount and no specific minimum amount of the CRSE standards to embed into our comprehensive plan. So we picked 7 that we feel closely align with our portrait of a graduate. So I'll review those quickly with you. The first one is to reflect on how they meet the needs of each learner. The second one is to respect the real-world experiences of learners, educators, educational leaders, families, and caregivers, and the diverse funds of knowledge they bring into the educational spaces. Thirdly, utilize differentiated methods of communication to articulate clear expectations aligned with the ability of each learner, which allows them to demonstrate knowledge through differentiated modalities. Fourth, provide multiple pathways and opportunities for students to achieve academic and social success. Fifth, value every family as an asset and a resource. 6, view family and community engagement as a priority. And finally, establish authentic relationships with learners. At your seat tonight, you have the hard copy of the CRSE guidelines. Within the CRSE guidelines, you also have the highlighted standards that we have chosen, and you can see where they're embedded within the numerous competencies that are part of CRSE. And finally, the last little review that we have for you is a quick one-pager here on our induction plan. We are excited because in Boyertown, we have a 3-year induction program, and if I'm not mistaken, Mrs. Landis, I think the 3-year induction program was a new requirement, but we had already had a 3-year induction program for our teachers, and you can look at here what the year 1, year 2, year 3 structure is, building a foundation in BASD, growing our understanding, and transitioning to tenure. And then you can also see what the monthly meeting topics are in the course of that first year induction. I love teaching. I have the 4th bullet down, using assessment to improve learning, but we have numerous administrators throughout the district that help to facilitate the induction program for our teachers. So that is the end of our comprehensive plan update.
At this time, looking for approval of the October 10th, 2023 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes.
Hogan moves.
A second.
Ms. Duroff. On minutes, anything?
Seeking approval of the October 10th,
2023 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes.
Yes.
Mrs. Scott.
Yes.
Ms. Hogan.
Yes.
Mr. Zawada.
Yes.
Mr. Hemingway.
Yes.
Mr. Updegrove.
Yes.
Mr. Brophy.
Yes.
Ms. Nyman.
Yes.
Mr. Panarello.
Yes.
Motion carries.
At this time, I would like to introduce Mrs. Carrie Fox, our accounting manager, to present the draft of the 2023 September Treasurer's Report.
Good evening. Tonight I'm going to be presenting to you a few highlights from the September 2023 Treasurer's Report. For local revenue, delinquent tax collection was approximately $78,707.58. Earned income tax collection was approximately $793,263.06. Transfer tax collection was approximately $145,159.06. And for state revenue, PDE special education subsidy was $704,886, and PDE retirement was $3,085,185.90. And for the category of salaries, benefits, and professional services under expenditures, it accounted for approximately 66% of our monthly expenditures for September. And that concludes my treasurer's report. Thank you.
Okay, the recommended action is for the Board of School Directors to approve the treasurer's report as presented.
Hogan second.
Comments or questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Ms. Durrell? Yes. Mrs. Scott? Yes. Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Zawada?
Yes.
Mr. Hemingway?
Yes.
Mr. Updegrove?
Yes.
Mr. Brophy?
Yes.
Ms. Nyman?
Yes.
Mr. Pinarello?
Yes.
Motion carries.
This time I'd like to just make a quick reference that I am blessed with the opportunity to sit in for Mrs. Torsha tonight, so I am pleased to present the superintendent's itemized agenda to the board. The first item that we have on the agenda are overnight trips. We have, the motion is that we have an overnight trip on our itemized agenda. The purpose of this trip is for approximately 70 Bash music students and 5 chaperones to travel to Boston, Massachusetts on April 12th through the 15th of 2024 for the Boston Performing Arts Tour. So the recommended action is that we are asking the Board of School Directors to approve this overnight trip as presented.
Zawada second.
Comments and questions? Roll call, please.
Ms. Duroff?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Zawada?
Yes.
Mr. Hemingway?
Yes.
Mr. Updegrove?
Yes.
Mr. Brophy?
Yes.
Ms. Nyman?
Yes.
Mr. Pinarello?
Yes.
Motion carries.
The next item on the superintendent's itemized agenda is the permission to enter property for surveying. The recommended action is that the Board of School Directors grant permission to enter property for survey as presented. And this information was in your weekly update last week.
Duroff moves.
Brophy seconds.
Comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Ms. Duroff?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Zawada?
Yes.
Mr. Hemingway?
Yes.
Mr. Updegrove? Mr. Brophy?
Yes.
Ms. Nyman?
Yes.
Mr. Pinarello?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Our next item on the agenda is the Act 1 resolution. The recommended action is that the Board of School Directors adopts the Act 1 resolution, thereby limiting the tax increase for the 24-25 school year by no more than the index of 6.4%. Mrs. Denicola, is there anything to add?
There's nothing to add at this time.
Duroff moves. Hogan seconds.
Comments and questions? Roll
Ms.
call, please.
Ms. Duroff?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Zawada?
Yes.
Mr. Hemingway?
Yes.
Mr. Updegrove?
Yes.
Mr. Brophy?
Yes.
Ms. Nyman?
Yes.
Mr. Pinarello?
Yes.
Motion carries.
The next item on the superintendent's agenda is the comprehensive plan. The recommended action is that the Board of School Directors approve the 23-26 comprehensive plan as presented.
Now motion to amend. Zawada seconds. Okay, the amend I would like is to uncheck the box for CRSE and remove all of the references to it in the body that were put in. I believe this document does nothing to enhance education. And through that, I'm going to read just a few of the so-called standards and competencies. Let's try. Reflect on their own life experiences and membership to various identity groups: race, skin color, ethnicity, gender identity, age, nationality, orientation, religion. Understand that they, like everyone, can unwillingly adopt social biases and can shape the future of their interactions with groups and individuals. Engage in the critical, difficult conversations with others to deepen their awareness of their own conscious, unconscious biases, stereotypes, and prejudices. So if you agree with this, obviously you believe you are a racist bigot. Now, know and understand that bias exists in the educational system. Now, you can laugh. Understand the importance of social markers such as race, skin color, ethnicity, gender, blah, blah, blah. Identify literature and professional learning opportunities for themselves to understand more about the manifestations of racism and other biases at institutional and structural levels that can result in disadvantaging. Pretty much what this says is our teachers are racist, they can't help themselves, and we as the government are going to stand there and tell them how not to be racist and make sure it doesn't happen. So my motion is to remove it. My motion is to remove all references to it, and I believe anybody that wants to support this, I don't know what you're doing in education. It's nothing to do with education. It's definitely a political agenda. You're on.
So, Mr. Sultanic, you had stepped out for a second. So, Mr. Brophy, could you, I don't know if you heard that, Mr. Sultanic, because he has it? Okay.
Okay, so the motion to amend the approval of the comprehensive plan, you're making a motion to amend it so that, very simply, the checkoff that exists on the comprehensive plan ensuring compliance will be removed.
And the references that were put inside that go back to that are also removed.
And the references that are in the comprehensive plan relating to CRSE would be removed.
Correct.
So I was going to say, just to clarify, back to our presentation, in those six boxes that were checked, one of those boxes was about CRSE, and then the 7 standards that were embedded within the comprehensive plan draft is what you're looking to have, because they are the standards from the CRSE competencies, so you want them removed.
Everything that reads back to CRSE needs to be removed at this point.
Of course.
Are we ready for questions?
This is all
Is there a second on the motion to
Yeah,
amend?
there would be.
Yeah, he seconded, yes, so it would be discussion now.
It's discussion.
It's discussion.
On the amendment, yes.
So this is a question for Mr. Sultanic. So if we are to follow through with this amendment, if the board is to approve that, what would the consequences to the district be?
That's a wonderful question, and I'll be honest with you, nobody can give that answer because the Department of Education has not given an answer.
Okay.
That's yes, it is a
Yeah.
I think, the issue is whether or not the state would initiate any enforcement proceedings as a result of that, or it could range from doing nothing to communicating to us, to bouncing the application and say, we won't approve that until you approve it in its complete format, and then we'll have to address it at that point in time, or they will simply reject the comprehensive plan, or they could exercise ultimately their authority in withholding financing. I mean, money's being distributed to the district, but they would only be able to do that after a hearing. So the board would have another opportunity to address it at that point.
Okay, so they could withhold,
They could withhold
Funding.
subsidy, they could withhold subsidies.
yeah, after a hearing.
After a hearing.
Okay, so if they were just to reject or bounce the application back to us,
Then at that time, you'll have to debate, and the then constituted board will make that decision.
okay. I'm gonna let everyone else ask their questions, and then I'm probably gonna have another comment, so I'm gonna let everyone else speak first. Thank you.
Just to qualify, Mr. Sultanic, we discussed earlier, isn't this being approached in the courts now by some other school districts?
There are 3 school districts who have filed a challenge. I'm sorry. There are 3 school districts that have filed a challenge to the imposition of this, but it doesn't, those challenges don't go to the heart of what we're addressing here. The challenges go to the procedure upon which the department promulgated this rule versus some of the substance that I think is of concern to certain board members on this board.
Other comment?
Just as a note, all, sorry. Okay. I'm going to stand back here. Just as a note, this is the motion to amend. So it won't approve it, it would just amend the motion, and then you would have to vote on it under the circumstances. So this is just the first step. You're amending the underlying motion. If this motion does not get approved, then the board would be voting on the comprehensive plan as proposed by the administration.
Okay. So hearing the concerns with the terminology that are being used in the comprehensive plan, I can say that I know part of our mission is to, I can't remember the exact mission statement, but it's basically to educate children to live in an ever-changing world. We are preparing students to live and work in the global market, and the skills that are being discussed are important skills that people, students need to understand in order to successfully navigate the modern corporate world. And then as far as saying that our teachers are racists and they can't help themselves, I vehemently disagree with that. I don't think that that's at all what this document is saying. And I believe that we have been told, and we've discussed, that the way that the CRSE competencies will be used within our district would align with our district values and the values of our community. So we are talking about things like socioeconomic difference, which is we have great gaps in throughout the district. So teaching trauma-informed practices is really just meeting people where they are. Social emotional learning is teaching students coping skills and life skills, really. I think that that's what a lot of those kinds of things that we are reinforcing. I really see no issue with comprehensive plan as developed. And I appreciate the work, and I know it was a lot of hard work and a lot of time that went into putting it together by professionals who are work in education every day, which I do not. I respect their opinions, I respect their advice, and I see no issue moving forward with the plan as it is. So thank you.
On that note, call for a vote.
Ms. Diroff?
This is for the amendment, correct?
That's, yes,
The
that's
amendment.
amended.
Yes.
Mrs. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
No.
Mr. Zawada?
Yes.
Mr. Hemingway?
Yes.
Mr. Updegrove?
Yes.
Mr. Brophy?
Yes.
Ms. Nyman?
Yes.
Mr. Panarello?
Yes.
Motion carries.
So, Mr. Sultanic, the next recommended action on the superintendent's itemized agenda would be for the recommended action of the Board of School Directors to approve the amended 2023-26 comprehensive plan as presented. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Brophy moves.
Comments or questions?
I do have one, I don't know that it's an amend or if it's just, but there is a part in here also that talks about, talks about embedding impact skills aligned with CASEL competencies such as critical thinking, and that's all fine, except that CASEL is a company. If you go to casel.com, you can see and read all kinds of stuff. Now, we don't do everything CASEL does, or CASEL sells a lot of this stuff to us, but we don't do all of it, and we have seen all the presentations, but still, it's in here as aligning with CASEL. We don't align with CASEL. We buy a product from CASEL. So I think just the wording, CASEL should be out of there. We pay them money for their product, and that's it. But we don't align with their whole thing, because if the board goes to look at that website, you can be sure there are going to be things that we, as a board, some of us, most of us, will not want to align with. And even I tried to look at that site today. It would take days. There's just so much information there. So I'm not faulting anything with the comprehensive plan. I'm just saying that we don't align with CASEL. They give us the skills that we use, we buy their product, but we are not aligning with everything on their website. And that's how I read that. I think that's a legal thing. And, you know, it could be changed in the future, but I think we should, someone could read that and decide they're going to bring some things in that are not part of the plan. And I don't think that we want to let that happen.
I can speak to that. The key component for the CASEL, and we call it the CASEL 5, are the self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, and social awareness. In talking and thinking about the website itself and the, I'll call it the rabbit hole that many online resources can take you, we focus our district on, we call them the CASEL 5, and those are the key components that we help to drive those elements to help support our students from a social emotional perspective. So all of the rabbit holes that the website might go down and the areas, I don't, I can't, to your point, I can't imagine driving down those roads and being able to look at everything. So it's the key element of what CASEL represents in the framework of those guidelines, and that's kind of our SEL definition.
Well, I feel that it just is opening a door. It keeps a door open to use other things on the website. That's my point. So my motion would be to amend and just pull the name out. We are Boyertown School District. We don't need to align with CASEL. It's not a PDE requirement, and it just keeps a door open that doesn't need to be open for future board members or future administrators and educators here.
There was a motion. There needs to be a second.
I'll second that one.
Well, we already had one motion on the floor that we didn't vote on yet.
Gotta vote on that motion first.
No, that motion was to, oh yeah, so we're gonna have to
Yeah,
the motion on the floor, the motion on the floor was to accept
the amended motion. So she
We did
is,
that already.
so Mary Ann Scott
Oh,
is
I'm
now
sorry.
suggesting to amend the amended
I'm gonna
motion
amend this motion. Yes, I'm sorry.
to omit any references to CASEL.
Can we put that first motion on hold, take care of this, and then jump back to that?
Well,
one, or
this
is that
has
something-
precedence over the underlying motion.
Okay.
Which one is?
This does, this does, if,
But it's in the body of that other motion.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So there would be, so does everybody understand what's being, that the amended motion is going to be amended with removing all references to Castle?
I would just like to clarify that in the sense that the 5 competencies that are part, to Mrs. Scott's point, are critical in moving our district forward with respect to our understanding of social emotional learning. I just want to clarify that we are just removing them as Castle competencies. Is that what we're to not have it associated with that?
As I understand the motion, that the reference and the concern is about naming a vendor in the motion versus the substance of what is contained in your comprehensive plan.
Right.
So
Exactly.
so it's just removing them as a vendor, but not impacting the competencies that you have in your plan.
Right.
Can I? So again, just to clarify that we are embedding the 5 competencies and helping to support our students. We're just not referencing Castle.
Right.
Okay, I just want to want that clarified because those competencies are important to us.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll second the motion.
I thought it was seconded already.
Did it? No one seconded it.
Yeah,
Well, Chris, it's.
Yes.
You seconded it? All right.
Yes.
Then call for a vote.
Okay, this would be the motion to amend the comprehensive plan to remove all references to Castle, the
As a
vendor
vendor,
Castle, as a
yes.
vendor.
Roll call.
Ms. Diroff,
Yes.
Mrs. Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Hogan,
No.
Mr. Zawada,
Yes.
Mr. Hemingway,
Yes.
Mr. Updegrove,
Yes.
Mr. Brophy,
Yes.
Ms. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Panarello.
Yes.
Motion carries.
We will work on a new draft of the comprehensive plan and get that out to the board as soon as we're able. We're within a timeline, Mrs. Landis, I think the 28th of October. The 30th is when we have to have it uploaded in the portal.
Would we not be able to just vote on that tonight by just unchecking that one box and removing those essentially one sentence?
We
Slow down, we have not yet voted on the comprehensive plan amendment. We only just.
My humble apologies.
Okay. So we need now a motion to approve the amended motion.
Brophy second.
Roll call. Ms. Diroff,
Yes.
Mrs. Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Hogan,
No.
Mr. Zawada,
Yes.
Mr. Hemingway,
Yes.
Mr. Updegrove,
Yes.
Mr. Brophy,
Yes.
Ms. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Panarello.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, so just to update on where we will go, Mrs. Landis and I will work diligently on making sure we edit the draft document. I believe we will upload that by October 28th into the portal. And to Mr. Sultanic's point earlier, and just as an FYI too, we had reached out to Berks County Intermediate Unit for some guidance, and they don't have an answer to what will happen with those unchecked boxes. So I just want to put it on record that it could get kicked back to us in a week. It could be springtime until we hear something, whether it was approved or whether or not we have to make amendments. So it could come down.
Or it could be never.
Or it could be never. Yes. All right, the next item on the superintendent's itemized agenda is personnel. The recommended action is the Board of School Directors is asked to approve the personnel agenda as presented.
Nyman moves. Hogan second.
Comments or questions?
I do have one question. I'm looking, you're pretty much asking me to approve $152,000 for co-curricular type positions. Are there any additional positions that have been added to to this list from last year, or is this, we're just filling the same jobs we filled last year?
Mrs. Frederickson, do you have a response to that?
To clarify, are you talking co-curricular or the athletics as a whole, or based on a specific season?
I'll tell you, I can go and say anything on this list. Are there additional staffing positions being added, or are we reapproving positions from last year moved to this year?
The majority is reapproving, with the exception of there was some as part of the collective bargaining agreement that was reached. Everything is currently embedded in that collective bargaining agreement, so.
Any new ones or what?
I don't have the specific number off the top of my head, but I believe there was 2 for the fall.
So you're saying on this whole list, there's only 2 additional positions
For
that
the
are being added?
for the fall, yes.
I guess my point of asking the questions are, as I stated at the last meeting, every time we put another personnel issue in, to me, we're adding staff. Now, I'm not an academic, so I'm not going to tell you whether you need them or you don't need them, because I'm obviously not smart enough for that, or it's not part of my purview. However, what I would like is to know if that you have looked at existing positions to see which ones may not be irrelevant anymore, or which positions should be combined to try and provide the district with offsets so that we don't have a continuing staffing increase on a static pupil student number. So what I'm asking is, I'm not telling you what you can and what positions you can and can't, because I don't know, but I'm asking to give us more information on what our staffing needs are and how we're reevaluating them as we increase other staffing positions.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Diroff?
No.
Mrs. Scott?
Yes.
Mrs. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Zawada?
Yes.
Mr. Hemingway?
Yes.
Mr. Updegrove?
Yes.
Mr. Brophy?
No.
Ms. Nyman?
Yes.
Mr. Panarello?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Mr. President, that on behalf of Mrs. Torsha, that completes our superintendent report.
Public comment period number 2, Donnie Savage.
Mr. President, I have a concern about the clothing, that it's political, the t-shirts underneath. And I don't believe that our public comment is allowed to be a political statement.
For Donna?
And
For my t-shirt, I guess.
Can you button her t-shirt?
Am I allowed to wear this in a board meeting?
I don't know. Is she allowed to wear that?
Okay, I'm gonna do that one. Okay. We had checked the policy. The policy only restricts placards and banners, but not clothing.
Okay.
Apologies.
Thank you. Yeah, I was a little conflicted whether to wear my Boyertown Forward or my Philly shirt today, so I did both. I really don't know what to say here. Regarding the amended, everything I heard aligns perfectly with what I read in the Moms for Liberty playbook. So you're bringing national political agendas right into this boardroom for Boyertown without thinking about our local community. In response to the CRSE, from what I understand it to be, it is helping to train our teachers to address challenges that students might have, meeting them at the door, understanding them, accepting them, so that you can teach them and they can learn. Even in corporations, people are trained on this. It's not that they're unable to do this on their own, but everybody could use some help understanding their unconscious biases. All of us have them, and all of us may not recognize them for what they really are. And it's really helpful to be reminded and to be trained on those things. So that isn't really why I wanted to talk tonight, but thank you for hearing that. I really wanted to talk about the transparency and the community involvement, or lack thereof, of this board. Over the past 4 years, the board has done very little to communicate to the community, and more importantly, to seek input from the community. The committee meetings rarely happen, and in fact, the board has made the ability of community members to express themselves harder and harder, as was expressed even tonight as I stood up here. Most people I talk to say that emails to the board remain unacknowledged, and the public comment policies and practice has become more and more restrictive. Not very long ago, you could sign up online or as you arrived and for comment period 2 up until public comment period 2 started. Now you need to sign up by email by 1 p.m. on the day of the meeting, which is also often less than 24 hours after the agenda's been posted. And most recently, you can't even sign up for public comment period number 2 without knowing your exact comment. Now, public comment period number 2 is about things that aren't on the agenda or a reaction to what you've heard. If you don't know what you're going to hear, how do you know what you're going to talk about? So I know you're tired of seeing me here, but I feel strongly that you are not representing our community. And as long as you sit in those seats acting as you do, I will continue to be here advocating for public education at Boyertown. And trying to convince you that this school district and this community deserve more. Thank you very much.
That's the first time I've ever been accused of being a mom.
Since I'm looking at the clock and we're like 30 seconds from the first pitch of Game 7, I'm going to keep this as short as I can. I was glad to see that the board is taking the budget process starting this early. That's great because it's going to take a lot of work. And it sounds like it's going to take perhaps even more work if the state gives us no funding because you defied the law. So go Phils.
I don't think heckling members of the community is dignified, and I think it really speaks poorly of this board. And I would ask my colleagues to please refrain, please. Again, I don't. People are allowed to have their opinions.
Let's move on to board comment period, and then we're going to call this a night, or I'm just going to call it a night now. Yeah, let's call it a night. Meeting adjourned.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
You have a comment? Go ahead, Lise.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, I just wanted to thank the Bash Choir for their performance. I wanted to, again, thank our student reps, Lexi and Liliana. I wanted to thank Mrs. Landis and Mr. Stout for all their work on the comprehensive plan. I wanted to just give a shout out to the Historical Society for the amazing Halloween parade that they put on. I know a lot of work went into that, so I appreciate that. And then, go Phils, and that's all for me. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Adjourned.
No?
Oh, we adjourned.
Meeting adjourned. Meeting adjourned.